Okay, let's take a couple of minutes together just to go through this screen. It's a lot of information here. I just want to take you through it so you can understand what's going on, how you can use it effectively, and really be really productive with comparative agility. So, how about we start with the title? There's the title right there. Team Dolphins May 2018 versus Team Dolphins December 2017. That title was something I did previously in the other screen. You can call it whatever you want. What's useful sometimes is to sort of enumerate the kind of collectors you're using because that essentially explains the data set that you're using. If you want to know what data set is being leveraged, you can just click on this little eye over here and it'll show you the data on each side, the data that you want to compare and the data you want to compare to. So that's pretty convenient. What you see over here on the right hand side, a little question mark that will take you to our help center that can be useful for all sorts of videos and instructional type of resources. So that's always useful. Here you see a little video tutorial, and that's actually what you're watching right now, so I think you know where that is. Here is a button that will allow you to share the report with other people, send them a link. Here, of course, you can print the report if you like, and here's the download button, which allows you to download the data into a CSV file or an Excel file, which can be useful. And here is a button that takes you back to the old report. So if you still want to stay with the classic design, you can do that, and we'll keep that option for you for a while just to make sure that you don't get disrupted. So those are sort of the basics, but how about the overviews itself? Well, here's a navigation you should be aware of. On the left-hand side here, you can actually see dimensions, characteristics, and the actual statements. It's kind of a navigation bar. If you look at this, here's the teamwork dimension. If you click on that, you can break that down very quickly into the different characteristics inside of that dimension. If you then click on any of those particular characteristics, you can get down to the individual statements or the questions if you like. That's kind of interesting. So that's a very quick way to get there. So I'll click on overview again. Here's the overview, and then I can drill down very quickly to each of the particular dimensions and then down to the characteristics. You can also do that by actually clicking on the particular graph. If you're looking at teamwork again, I can click on it this way and get down to the same type of drill down by simply clicking on the graph. So that's another way to do that. Now, if you look at the stuff on the right-hand side here, you see different graph types. Right now, we only show bar charts and we have the spider view. That's something we will do, and we will expand that over time. So for every single thing you're looking at here, you can look at this from two different ways, the spider chart and of course the bar. Now, we will change it over time. You'll see more of these options, but that's something to look forward to. I think you're going to like the way you can very quickly drill down and look at this differently. The other part that I really love is that we now can show you different data types right off the bat. Right now, the option here when we start the default is to look at the differences from the benchmark. That is, of course, where comparative agility comes from. It's looking at the differences from one data set to the other. That's what we do here. We look at the differences between Team Dolphins from May 2018 to Team Dolphins from December 2017. Very interesting. You can see where they have done well and where they feel they haven't done so well. But what you can also do now is look at the raw averages and the distributional characteristics. So if you look at Team Dolphins from May 2018, that's the data set here that we have on the left-hand side, you can now also look at the actual averages. So let's say we go down to teamwork, for instance. We look at this first and we can see this and we can say, okay, this is interesting. A couple of things here seem to be doing a little bit worse than what they did back in December. So how about team management? We can now look at this and say, all right, compared to what was going on in December, they're now indicating that they're actually doing worse. In particular, for this particular statement here, management sets goals but doesn't tell team members how to achieve them. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Well, what we can do now is we can look at this and look at the averages. And we can say, all right, what's the raw average score for May 2018? If you look at this, that same statement, you can see the average is 2.71. That's pretty low. You remember, this is on a 5-point Likert scale, so that's a pretty low statement. So not only can we see now that the raw average is low, you can also see that they're doing poorly compared to what they did before. You can also now, though, look at the distributional characteristics. And if you do that, that's really interesting because now not only do you see the average, you can see the differences, you can also now see the degree to which team members inside of that data set is agreeing or disagreeing with each other. In this case, you see a box chart like this. This shows you that there's a wide range of responses. This is 7 people who tend to have quite a bit of disconnect between how they feel. That to me shows you that this is someone that you want to talk to. This is a team you want to engage with because you want to understand where this is coming from. That's one way you can very quickly drill down and make sense of it all. One thing we haven't really talked about, it's what's happening below here. I think this is really interesting because here's where you can see all the data and the distributions, and you can also look at the statements for each of them. So let's say we go down to teamwork again. Looking at teamwork, you can see statements, all the statements that's inside of teamwork. You can very quickly sort it if you like, sort it by the highest statement, in this case, the averages. You can go down to averages here. And here you see the averages, towards the highest number. You can see everyone required to go from requirements to finished system is on the team. That's by far the highest score from an average perspective. If you want to look at the differences, you can see where the biggest differences are and the lowest differences by sort of sorting it that way. And of course, distributional characteristics, looking at the standard deviations and very quickly see here what's going on. So that's an interesting way for you to very quickly get to where the meat is, where the actual issues are. We also have a way here for looking at insights. If you click at insights, it'll give you a quick view of all the key data types. You can look at the key strengths and the key opportunities. Where do we see the highest averages? Where's the largest positive difference? Where is the highest amount of agreement? Very quickly you can see that. You can also see the key opportunities. So that will tell you right away where you can see there's some issues. Like for instance here, management sets goals but doesn't tell team members how to achieve it. That's interesting. You can see right away that that's happening on the average part. If you see here, you can also see that that same statement comes up when you look at the negative differences from before. And you can also see it here when you look at the statements with the least amount of agreement. So as a coach, this is a chance for you to very quickly get to where the data is leading you. You can see what's happening. You can start to see some inferences of what the data is trying to tell you. Right now, if I was a coach, I know the first thing I would do is start talking to that team. Because what this tells you is not necessarily an answer. What comparative agility does so well here is not necessarily to tell you this is what's wrong. What it does tell you, though, is that it tells you something is wrong, and it tells you that this is an opportunity for you to ask better questions. Having this data doesn't give you the answers, but it helps you ask better questions. And that's what continuous improvement is all about.